You ever have one of those brilliant ideas, but when you try to draw it out, it just doesn't work? It's a huge problem, and it's one that scientists face every single day. But what if an AI could be their own personal artist? Well, today we're going to talk about PaperBanana, a new tool from researchers at Google and Peking University that does exactly that. And honestly, it might just change how fast science moves forward.
So, meet PaperBanana. He's the mascot. But before he was the solution, he was actually the problem. He represents that massive gap between having a world-changing idea in your head and actually showing it to the world in a way that makes sense. He's kind of the friendly face of a massive research headache.
And that really gets to the heart of it, right? I mean, if you've ever tried to map out a complex process for work or a project, you know this feeling deep in your bones. Why is it so incredibly hard to take that genius idea and translate it into a simple, clear diagram that anyone can understand? Well, in the world of scientific research, this problem actually has a name. They call it the illustration bottleneck. It's that critical point in the process where words just aren't enough anymore. You need a picture to explain your idea, but trying to create that perfect picture can stop a brilliant project dead in its tracks.
And look, this isn't just some minor inconvenience. The researchers behind PaperBanana say it themselves. This is a labor-intensive bottleneck. We're not just talking about making things look pretty. This is a fundamental barrier that literally slows down the entire process of sharing scientific discoveries.
Up until now, researchers have been stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, you've got these code-based tools. Yeah, they're super precise, but they're also rigid and pretty terrible for making custom, intuitive stuff like icons or unique shapes. Then on the other hand, you have the big, creative AI image models we all know, but they just can't handle the intense accuracy and strict stylistic rules of science. There's just been this huge gap right in the middle.
And it's into that gap that our hero steps. To solve this problem, these researchers have built something completely new, an AI artist that's been specifically trained for the incredibly demanding world of scientific communication.
So what is PaperBanana really? The key phrase to focus on here is agentic AI framework. You got to think of it not as one singular AI, but more like a dedicated team of specialist AIs. Each one has a very specific job, and they all work together to create these perfect, publication-ready illustrations. So here's the game plan. You just feed it simple text, a description of your work. From there, PaperBanana assembles its AI dream team. They go out and find inspiration. They draft a super detailed blueprint, they render the image, and then, and this is the really cool part, they critique their own work and refine it over and over until it's absolutely perfect. Now, what's so incredible about this whole thing is how this team works together. So let's pop the hood and actually meet this AI dream team that's responsible for turning dense, complicated text into a beautiful, clear diagram. Okay, just take a second to look at this, because this map lays out the entire brilliant workflow. It's all split into two main phases. First, you've got the planning phase. Think of this as the big strategy session, where the AI team gathers all the information and creates a detailed blueprint. Then, once that's done, it all moves into the refinement loop. This is like the design studio, where the illustration is actually created, then critiqued and polished until it's perfect.
And the most important thing to get here is that this isn't one generalist AI trying to do everything at once. No way. This is a team of specialists. You know, just like a real-world creative agency. Every single part of the process is handled by an expert agent that was built for that one specific task.
So let's break down phase one, the planning stage. It all kicks off with the retriever. This is the team's librarian, who scours existing research papers for visual inspiration. Then, the planner steps in. This is the architect, meticulously turning that raw text into a structural blueprint. And finally, the stylist, who's like the design guru, makes sure that blueprint follows all the strict visual rules for things like color and layout in academic papers.
Okay, so with that plan locked in, we enter the refinement loop. This is where the magic happens. The visualizer acts as the artist, creating the first draft. But it doesn't stop there. Immediately, the critic agent, who's like the team's super sharp-eyed editor, jumps in. It checks every single detail for accuracy and clarity and suggests improvements. This back and forth between the artist and the editor is what guarantees the final quality is so high.
And this isn't some endless loop either. It's a very precise 3-round cycle. That's the sweet spot the researchers found. It's just enough to make sure every diagram is factually perfect, crystal clear, and looks great, all while being incredibly efficient.
So the theory is fantastic, right? A collaborative AI artist team sounds amazing. But the real question is, does it actually work out in the real world? Well, the researchers decided to put it through a seriously tough test to find out.
And to really see what PaperBanana was made of, they didn't go easy on it. They created a whole new benchmark for this, using 292 of the most complex diagrams you can find in top-tier AI publications. This wasn't just a test, it was a trial by fire.
And the results? They were absolutely stellar. PaperBanana just blew the existing methods out of the water. I mean, just look at these numbers. A massive 37% improvement in how concise the diagrams were, and a 17% jump in the overall score. What this really means is the diagrams it creates aren't just accurate, they are profoundly easier for other scientists to actually understand.
But, numbers are one thing. The real proof is in the pictures. On one side, you have a typical, kind of confusing diagram from an AI paper. On the other side, you have the diagram explaining PaperBanana's own framework, which was generated by PaperBanana itself. The difference in clarity is just night and day.
And that brings me to my absolute favorite part of this whole story. It's the ultimate mic drop moment. The researchers were so confident in their own system that, right there in the paper, they say that the figures marked with a little banana icon were entirely generated using PaperBanana. They didn't just talk the talk, they had their own AI walk the walk for its own publication. Incredible. And get this, it's not just for those crazy complex system diagrams either. The whole framework is flexible enough to handle data visualization too. It can create these beautiful, totally publication-ready statistical plots right from the raw data. It's basically a complete visual toolkit for any modern researcher.
Which really leaves us with a truly exciting question to think about. We've just seen a specialized team of AIs master the very human, very difficult art of scientific illustration. It's breaking a bottleneck that has probably slowed science down for decades. So it really makes you wonder, what's the next great creative challenge? The next big bottleneck that an AI dream team is going to solve for all of us?